What is up, Internet? Beagle Eye Visions is back. Happy Halloween, happy Halloween. Come on in. I hope you have a nice warm beverage for you. So I'm just gonna dive right into it. So we're doing H.P. Lovecraft. The H.P. Lovecraft story that we are doing this Halloween season is called The Shadow over Innsmouth, and I kind of just. For some reason, I didn't think too hard about which story I was going to do. This one just spoke to me, I guess. So I decided to do this one. This story was originally rejected by Weird Tales. Weird Tales is an American fantasy and horror fiction pulp magazine founded by J.C. Henneberger and J.M. Lansinger in 1922. The first issue dates March 1923, and like I said, this story was written by H.P. Lovecraft. We love H.P. Lovecraft over here. Though I don't know what you were thinking when you named your cat, dude. What were you thinking? You probably don't like cats. So our story begins in 1927. The federal government makes a secret discovery and begins to investigate the Massachusetts seaport of Innsmouth. The police are causing chaos, like what they do best. Issuing raids and arrests, charging sticks of dynamites in supposedly abandoned houses. On top of that, it is Prohibition times, so there is a war on liquor during the setting of this book. The omnipotent government deemed consuming a certain type of liquid immoral. That is an important part of history that is, like I said, it's important because it still goes on today in 2023 with the war on drugs, the drug war. You know, as Nixon put it. Similar to what goes on today. Consuming a plant in a certain state will get you a fine, and depending on the state, it will get you prison time. You know, what a joke. This plant is immoral. This plant is immoral. Meanwhile, the freaking, yeah. It's just a joke. It makes me brain fart. It's 2023, man. Why is it? It's, you cross the border to Michigan and, you can smoke it wherever you want. You go down south to Indiana and you could get fined or potentially jail. We talked about this in the Crazy Life Stories podcast with Matt Bennett. Matt Bennett in Elmhurst, Illinois. With what he was going through, we talked about that so check out Crazy Life Stories. There are also military prisons secretly disposing of prisoners with no trial or charges, right? Again, hits too close to home. Very relatable to what's going on today, to this day. Rumors of a deep-diving submarine that discharged missiles in a nearby Devil's Reef, which is a mile and a half from the Innsmouth port. But at last, I am going to defy the ban on speech about this thing. Results, I am certain, are so thorough that no public harm save shock of repulsion could ever accrue from a hinting of what was found by those horrified raiders in Innsmouth. Besides, what was found might possibly have more than one explanation. I do not know just how much of the whole tale has been told even to me. I have many reasons for not wishing to probe deeper, for my contact with this affair has been much closer than that with any layman, and I have carried away impressions which are yet to drive me to drastic measures. Page 808. And I think that's kind of funny that was page on 808 if you study. That's the hidden principle. Our main character visits New England for a coming-of-age tour and to visit some family going from Newburyport to Arkham. These are towns over on the East Coast. Our character has a nice chat with a ticket teller because he is trying to find a cheaper route since the only way to Arkham was via a steam train. The teller mentions a bus, but it goes through the mysterious town of Innsmouth, and the only resources the town had was a refinery owned by Old Man Marsh. So now that the refinery doesn't seem to be in operation, the town it doesn't have much resources. Like, this town looks like West Virginia. If you ever been over there when you visited Skatopia, if you visit West Virginia or Pomeroy, it's a very very, very poor town. Marsh developed a skin disease in his old age, so he doesn't leave his estate much, and neither does his children. So some of the stories would make you laugh about old Captain Marsh driving bargains with the devil and bringing imps out of hell to live in Innsmouth, or about some kind of devil worship and awful sacrifices in some place near the wharves that people stumbled on around 1845 or thereabouts. But I come from Panton, Vermont, and the story didn't go down with me. That was the gentlemanly teller telling a tale. The gentlemanly teller telling a tale on page 810. Innsmouth had an epidemic in 1846. Oh, this is something that is absolutely insane. So they had an epidemic in 1846, possibly from a foreign disease brought from China by shipping goods. There were riots. There were riots all over the town, and the teller says there can't be more than 300 or 400 people living there now. So there were riots after this epidemic, but during our scamdemic epidemic, there were no riots because everybody was forced to stay in their houses, and they did, like cowards, you know, if you know what I'm referring to. I'm sure you all do. So truth is stranger than fiction, but it is because fiction is obliged to stick to possibilities. Truth is not. That was a direct quote from Mark Twain. So Captain Marsh had 3 ships in commission in the 20s and 30s that always brought back people, herbs, spices, and other various goods. An interesting phenomena: fish are thick at the Innsmouth harbor, where there is none anywhere else. If you try to fish at Innsmouth in the harbor, the locals will run you out of town, and they'll start to get violent. Some blatantly obvious foreshadowing. The teller mentions that there is a hotel called the Gilman House, right? And for those of you who have already read this story, you know that is some foreshadowing. The Gill Man, but it's spelled Gilman in the book, so it kind of tricks you. But if you pay attention, you're like, why is it called the Gill Man House, right? If you're a student of green language, if you're a student of natural law, you're like, this is weird. So before automobiles became readily available, the Innsmouth locals always had trouble with horses and other animals. But now there's no more animals, and they use the bus. So it's because the horses, whenever the Innsmouth locals went near the animals, the horses started going crazy and acting up, started kicking like crazy, acting nuts. And then our main protagonist roams around the town once he gets to Innsmouth to try to find out more, and the locals are extremely standoffish when mentioning any topic of the rumors that he's heard. We discover seldom about the occulted harbor, except a piece of jewelry in the form of a sort of tiara was discovered and put on display to the Newburyport Historical Society. It took no excessive sensitiveness to beauty to make me literally gasp at the strange, unearthly splendor of the alien, opulent fantasy that rested there on a purple velvet cushion. Even now, I can hardly describe what I saw, though it was clearly enough a sort of tiara, as the description had said. It was tall in the front and very large and curiously irregular periphery, as if designed for the head of a almost freakishly elliptical outline. The material seemed to be predominantly gold.
Please charge battery.
Oh, please charge battery. Oh, there we go. So no more sound effects. Even now, if I said it was tall in the front and very large, curiously irregular periphery, as if designed for the head of an almost freakishly elliptical outline. The material seemed to be predominantly gold, though a weird lighter lustrousness hinted at some strange alloy with an equally beautiful and scarcely identifiable metal. Its condition was almost perfect, and one could have spent hours in studying the strikingly and puzzlingly untraditional designs, some simply geometrical and some plainly marine, chased or molded in high relief on its surface with a craftsmanship of incredible skill and grace. Page 813. Before Chapter 2 begins, an employee of the Historical Society, Miss Tilton, tells us of a cult that seems to come out of Innsmouth called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. That was I thought that was a very interesting name for a cult. And again, if you're a student, you will know. Chapter 2, Robert Olmsted, the character we are following, gets on the first bus to Innsmouth after a restless night. Checks his valise in the hotel, and then he leaves the hotel immediately to go outside and explore the town. To the east is the main harbor. To the southeast, he sees maybe a dozen decent conditioned shops that are still in operation. Near the river that leads to the Devil's Reef, Rob sees the office for the Marsh Refining Company. The first stop is a grocery store that is part of a chain. So, and it's mentioned in the book that this grocery store seems to be the brightest store in all of the downtown area out of all the shops, because it is a chain. He ironically, he trusts the chain more than the local shops in there. It's very funny. You need to. It's worth checking out. Speaking to the clerk that happens to be from Arkham, the chain transferred this poor 17-year-old to Innsmouth, and he didn't want to lose his job. So, and even though his parents didn't want him to do it, and his pastor made it extremely evident that he shouldn't walk around any of the churches in Innsmouth. The Innsmouth locals become violent, and there are rumors of tourists disappearing, especially around the refinery. There is a town drunk named Zadok Allen, and he is a whopping 96 years old. So it's like, geez, how is he still alive, you know? He was a strange, furtive creature who constantly looked over his shoulder as if afraid of something, and when sober, he could not be persuaded to talk at all with strangers, and that's a direct quote from page 822. Just like the scene in 1984 where Winston gets a local barfly drunk to try to find information. You know, a previous book review we've done is 1984. For those of you who aren't paying attention, check that book review out. Because our main character has to, you know, he finds out he has to get this guy drunk to get more information out of him. So it is also interesting to note that as Robert is walking through the town, there's an absence of cats and dogs, like we previously mentioned. He crosses a bridge with a warning sign and notices a drunkard at a bench just kind of rambling, and then he finds out that is the infamous Zadok Allen. So, chapter 3, Rob begins to get Zadok drunk, and after a few hours, he finally started telling stories of the Mr. Marsh's ships and where they navigated to. Zadok spoke of an island that was found in the east. The island housed ancient stone ruins that looked older than humans, along with statues of fish-like deities. This island had bountiful amounts of food and resources, while the surrounding islands were scarce. The natives all wore gold bracelets and tiaras similar to what Olmsted witnessed at the Historical Society. And turns out, according to Zadok Allen's drunken rant, the natives were sacrificing heaps of young men and maidens to the strange frog-fish creatures from the ocean in exchange for abundance. And doesn't this sound familiar, right? Again, this is still going on today. Americans have been sacrificing their children to the military-industrial complex forever, for decades and decades, you know? These recruiters get these young kids. Hi, confused 18-year-old with no direction because your parents don't love you. How would you like to shave your head and leave your home for unknown amounts of time to kill total strangers? And in 2 to 3 years, you will have your own house and a Corvette. You know, like that's how these recruiters get these young kids. It's all, they promote the money, right? How would you like to have a 4-bedroom house? How would you like to, you know, you're a man, you need to get your own house, you need to have your own car. What's your dream car, you know? That's how, they almost got me. You know, I remember when I was in high school, there was always those recruiters, and, you know, they were like, what's your dream car, Henry? What would you like to get? And I told them my dream car was a Mini Cooper. And of course, the way these meatheads, you know, they're constantly like ridiculing you, right? Because they're part of a cult. And cults do that. If you study the characteristics of cults, they ridicule you, right? Like if you don't want to be a part of the cult, they ridicule you, or they shun you, and of course, they made fun of me that I said I wanted a Mini Cooper, but I was, hey, I don't have anything I'm compensating for, so I don't need a big Chevy Silverado to to drive around. Right? I'm not compensating for anything. Yeah, and these cults, they get these young kids. I mean, I could talk about it all day, but I would end up screaming at the camera like Mark Passio does, and yeah, that stuff frustrates me. They almost got me. I had recruiters come to my house, but the only reason I didn't sign my life away is because I couldn't pass the math portion of like the test they make you do. It was probably subconsciously on purpose. So they give a certain number of young folks to the sea twice a year, May Eve and Halloween, regular as could be, and that's what Zadok Allen said on page 829. And he said May Eve and Halloween. So May Eve is that's a direct reference to Walpurgisnacht or May Day. These people were sacrificing their children for fish and gold. And that's what people do. To this day, people are still doing it. People are still sending their kids off to go across seas to kill innocent strangers. Here's a gun and a haircut. It's just so frustrating. It makes me brain fart because I get so frustrated. So Walpurgisnacht, many great minds have tackled this subject on May Day and Halloween. The Illusion was talking about it on his videos recently. Jay Dyer did a great episode on Halloween with his wife recently, and it was awesome. It was hilarious, very entertaining, very great content. So great minds like Mark Passio and Santos Bernacci, and all of the creators on the One Great Work Network. I mean, talking Black Pill Digest podcast, Wake the Dead podcast, CubbyWhole podcast. There's so many people talking about this suffering that people are going through, this perpetual suffering that people are putting their kids through. So look for more information on that topic, on Walpurgisnacht, on Halloween, on the history of these dates, and on the suffering of the military. And we're going to get into that very soon. We're going to get more into that. I mean, we're always getting into that. But so Zadok starts mentioning the fish people. The fish people start going on land and start fusing their blood with the natives, reminding me of our most recent book review called The Unveiling by Dennis Gilmore. And again, in that, but I don't want to give too much away of that book, but check out that book review that we did, and then go buy that book, because that is an awesome book. Something happens in that book where the aliens kind of fuse with the humans, and it's very bizarre. It's kind of traumatizing, I'd say. So the fish people never seemed to die, and the native elders would go into hiding after a while. They'd disappear into the ocean. So the surrounding islands decided to destroy the strange fish cult that led to the surrounding islands destroyed the island that was getting fused with these fish people, and then that led to an extreme famish for the island, for not only the island but Innsmouth as well, because if you remember, the Marsh family was going to this island and bringing back gold and resources, which was making people flock to Innsmouth, generating revenue for the town. And so, since the surrounding islands attacked the other islands, it brought famish for Innsmouth as well. So long story short, Innsmouth had become prosperous again. But Alan says, as a boy, he could see the great people, he calls them, and he could see the great go out into the Devil's Reef at nighttime, and where he would hear strange chanting as he would try to sleep. So Zadok tells a few stories about how he was growing up, and he lived in this town when he was 15, 16, and he would be trying to sleep at 2, 3 in the morning. He would hear these strange chantings, and he would look out into the Devil's Reef, and he would see like these just movements in the reef, and these creatures just doing like these very bizarre movements, and he would hear chants and keeping him up at all hours of the night. And this is what he grew up with this, so it became almost normal. And Mark Devlin tells a story that's very similar to this that made me think of Mark Devlin's book, which is called The Musical Truth Volume 1. He tells a story where he did a DJ gig in England at a venue that he's never heard about this venue before, and he was asking his DJ friends, like, do you know about this venue? Yeah, I played there before, and it was a great gig. I played, and then I left, and that's what Mark did, but it's a very creepy story. And so that's going to tie into the next book review, which is The Musical Truth Volume 1. I'm very excited. Hopefully we'll have that done before November, before the month of November is out. That's my goal. I hope to have that book review posted in November. So the Marsh family becomes rich and starts buying property after all this stuff happens. Zadok then tells another horrifying story of what he saw as a boy, and then basically, I'm trying not to give away too much. Rob, the main character, ends up getting traumatized before the chapter ends, and it's very creepy. Like, it's horrifying what happens to him. Check it out, read it, find a copy of this book. Again, like all the books we've done book reviews on this channel, you can find the book for like $1. I mean, or for very inexpensive. Read it, read the story. So in chapter 4, Robert calmly and stoically gets on a bus to get the hell out of Dodge, but he is informed that it needs repair despite the bus arriving ahead of schedule. So he's waiting for the bus at like 7:15, and the bus schedule says it's going to get there at 8 p.m. Well, the bus gets there at 7:15, right when he gets to the stop, and he gets onto the bus and secures the same spot that he sat on before to get to the town. And the people on the bus are like kind of whispering each other. It's very suspicious, and he's told he has to get back off the bus because the bus is not leaving town. So so our man heads back to the Gilman the Gilman Hotel to recluse in his discounted hotel room. And they gave him a discounted hotel room for $1, but suspiciously, again, it's very sketchy. He gets the hotel for $1, and the hotel has no running water, right? Why would the hotel have no running water? And it's all the way at the top of the hotel, too. So, and he mentions in the book that this hotel has no fire escape. So just know when the room grows cold, I'm a ghost. Aesop Rock quote, sorry. Following instinct, he bolts all the doors shut, and he even pushes a wardrobe in front of the door that goes out to the hall. So it gets real when he hears footsteps followed by a trying of the lock on his door. Shortly after he... Oh yeah, so he's just chilling in his room. He bolted all the doors. He puts a wardrobe in front of the door, and then he hears one of his neighbors. He doesn't know who it is. Somebody who's inside of the hotel tries to open his lock on the outside of his door, and he's just like sitting in the room like freaking out. And then he hears them try the lock on his front door, and then you know how like hotels usually have connected doors. So if you stay at a hotel, you open the door, sometimes you can see the door to the next room. So he bolted these doors, but he still heard the person. After the person tried his front door, this person tried the other locks on the other doors. So they're really trying to get in, and he's just sitting in his room, trying to be very quiet, not even making a noise. And he's like, what the hell am I going to do? Which is exactly why, if I was in his position, I would have definitely brought my gun to this mysterious hotel with me. You know, I would have definitely been strapped. You know, that's the importance of self-defense. I wouldn't have not have been caught dead in that town without a strap. I would have bought a strap. I mean, he came from England to America, so maybe he couldn't bring one. I would have tried to find one around the town before going to Innsmouth. You know, I would have done something. So this guy tries all the locks on the surrounding doors, and then that turns into knocking. So he tries the locks, and then he hears this guy knocking after trying all the locks, and the knock gets like, it starts from like a friendly knock, and then it gets heavier and heavier to a banging. Now soon this guy's got like, this guy banging is on his door, and he's just freaking out like SpongeBob, the SpongeBob meme. He's like, what am I gonna do? So it's an intense scene. So and again, I'm not gonna reveal everything, but he ends up once the knocking starts, he opens the door to the adjacent room, and he decides while this guy is knocking on the door, he's gonna bash through the other door to get through the next room, so he can try to get out of the hotel. So he while this guy's bashing on the door, he bursts through the side door. He's like, boy, he's ramming in the door. He busts through it, and he takes one of the deadbolts out of his old room, and he deadbolts the next door, and the next door in the hotel room, and then he finally is able to get out of the hotel room. He opens the window up, and he uses the curtain rod with the curtain, and he just kind of straps it to the window, and he uses the curtain rod to climb down, and eventually, so he sneaks out of the hotel, he gets into the town, and he's walking stealthily through town. He's trying to avoid everybody, and as soon as he's about to leave the courtyard of the hotel, he looks back at the hotel door, and he sees the hotel door burst open, and he sees a crowd of people with lanterns and pitchforks, and he hears inaudible noises that don't even sound human, and they're chasing after him. So that's all I'm going to reveal. But he goes to a railroad, and basically he gets traumatized again. He gets to the railroad. He's like, that's going to be the safest way to get out of town, because the railroad is not in use anymore, so it's all covered in brush. And he's like, oh, I could use the railroad to get out of town. He finds the railroad, starts heading out of town. Something very traumatic happens, and he passes out on the railroad that goes out of town. So, and then he wakes up, chapter 5, he wakes up, he makes it to Arkham safely, and he learns a great deal of his family lineage, which is very interesting. Then, like, this part of the book gets really good when he learns about his family lineage. One night, I had a frightful dream when I met my grandmother under the sea. She lived in a phosphorescent palace of many terraces, with gardens of strange, leprous corals and grotesque brachiate efflorescences, and welcomed me with warmth that may have been sardonic. She had changed, as those who had taken to the water change, and told me she had never died. Instead, she had gone to a spot her dead son had learned about, and had leaped to the realm whose wonders destined for him as well. He had spurred with a smoking pistol. This was to be my realm too. I could not escape it. I would never die, but would live with those who had lived since before man ever walked the earth. So I'm going to close out with that awesome, very intense quote that kind of just summarizes the atmosphere of this story. It's very good. The story is absolutely horrifying. So good. This book's a little bit more expensive because I got this as a gift. You can get this as Barnes & Noble. This is like the Barnes & Noble H.P Lovecraft collection. It's got nice silver pages. And if you have made it this far, congratulations! Because Beagle Eye Visions, we are having our very first giveaway. We are giving away this awesome framed photo of the OG Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Shout out to the Marlows and Dominic Soborowski for encouraging us to watch that. It is way better than the remake, by the way. So all you have to do to enter the giveaway is like this video on YouTube, share it on your Facebook, and tag the Beagle Eye Visions Facebook page. And that's all you have to do to enter the giveaway. And tomorrow when I wake up, I will put all the names into a giveaway, and we will see who wins tomorrow. So happy Halloween. We love Halloween, so we decided to do a fun little giveaway. We're going to do more of these eventually once we get more resources and stuff like that. So, and there's also a couple of housekeeping that I have to do. So November 17th, 2023 coming up. If you're in the northern Indiana area, be sure to come on down. We're having an event at Michiana Education and Arts Club. It's going to be punk rockers feed the homeless, and Michiana Education and Arts Club. If you don't know, the credo of MEAC is to preserve and promote education, literacy, and the arts throughout the Michiana area. So we absolutely love MEAC. We spend a lot of time over there. Beagle Eye Vision spends a lot of time over at MEAC. We can't get enough. We can't get enough of that education, literacy, and the arts. So be sure to come on out. Live bands, the 012, Innocence Gone, Connie Hash, Half Built Homes, Elkhart local. Shouts out to Half Built Homes. Check out some of their music on our YouTube channel, actually. And also the Distractions. They are a South Bend / Mishawaka local. They've been playing shows forever. They are so much fun to watch. I love the Distractions. Very entertaining punk rock band. $10 donation or 5 non-perishable items. And we are basically employees at MEAC. But you know we're still going to be buying some canned goods. And you know we're still going to be donating to the homeless because it's for a good cause and we like that stuff. We're all about that stuff over at Beagle Eye Visions. And then April 19th we have at MEAC again is not Beagle Eye Visions' birthday, but Jasmine the Camera Girl and my birthday. My birthday is on April 17th. Camera Girl's on April 19th. We have MEAC birthday show featuring myself, Dead and on Sarah, Apton's Dictum, and Shittison. Those guys are both from Chicago, both confirmed. They're going to be there for our birthday, so check it out. We're going to get some more bands for that show too, because you know it's our birthday. You know we're going to throw a banger. So if you made it this far, I usually never simp for the internet, but for this giveaway, I want some awesome person to get this awesome framed photo. We're going to ship it out to you, maybe give you a couple business cards, maybe throw in a couple random stuff. We'll see. You might get lucky. But we want this to go to an awesome person. So go ahead and like this on YouTube, share it on Facebook, and don't forget to tag Beagle Eye Visions because it will give us an update and I will be able to see that you tagged it and enter in the draw. Enter in the giveaway. Camera Girl's very tired. We gotta go and upload this. All right. Thanks for making it this far. Peace out, internet.